This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
Hello, and thank you for listening to The History of World War II podcast, episode 543, King of the Hills. Last time, Hoth's southern pincer moved out, and thanks to their elite panzer commanders, progress was made. The first defensive line was reached, but there were still 2 more lines to get through, and Soviet reinforcements were coming. Meanwhile, to the north, Roskosovsky's counterattack of July 6th failed due to a combination of German mines and then German tanks. And it was then that General Model unleashed his armor. What was left of Roskosovsky's 2nd Tank Army was told to dig in and hold the line, for surely panzers would be leading the enemy attack. And he was right. Model had ordered the 2nd, 9th, and 18th Panzer Divisions to attack along a 15-mile-long line west of Ponary. There were 3 heights that needed to be taken, one to the southeast of the German starting point at Ponary, one at Okhovatka due south of this attack, and one at Temploy, southwest of the center of this coming attack. This line and these hills, if they could be taken, was right in the midst of Roskosovsky's defense. To obtain it would not only tear a hole in the Soviets' defenses, but also be able to reach into territory that was not well defended. The northern half of Citadel would be well on its way to being achieved. And yet, Roskosovsky hoped that what he had there in place would hold, and in the area that Model's panzers were about to hit, waited 3,000 guns and mortars, 5,000 machine guns, and just over 1,000 tanks. Besides which, the Soviet general already had other formations to the west of this fighting, currently not under attack, being loaded up and transported here. As they arrived, he would spread them out to reinforce what he already had waiting for the Germans. Specifically, what was coming? An infantry division, 2 tank regiments, and the entire 65th Army of General Batov. On came Model's panzers and infantry, and what would follow would be 4 days of battle with 2,000 armored vehicles clashing in a relatively small area. The goal of both would be the control of those heights that Model needed to capture. And one of the early victories that day was when Major Savant's Heavy Panzer Battalion 505 of Tiger tanks captured the town of Soborovka, about 7 miles or 11 kilometers west of Ponary. He was supported by the 2nd Panzer Division, the 2nd Battalion of the 3rd Panzer Regiment, and an assault gun battalion. That was the good news. The bad news was that T-34s and Soviet squads of tank busters would keep trying to retake the height until the evening of the next day, July 7th. And in that time, Savant's 2 Tiger companies would become severely mauled. To compensate, the 3rd Company of 2nd Panzer rushed to join up, but its tank commander died, as did his tank, even before reaching combat. The company was left in confusion. Fortunately, the Soviets did not launch an attack at this moment. The next day, July 9th, Savant's 505 Battalion was pulled back and put into reserve. But back on July 8th, the 3 hills were under fierce attack. To the west, at Teploy, the 20th Panzer Division had cleared a path to the town, but to show how intense the fighting had been, all the officers of the 5th Company of the 112th Panzer Grenadier Regiment had been killed in under an hour. Still, the way to Teploy was clear, thus Lieutenant General D. von Sauken's 4th Panzer Division would now take the lead. But first, Ju-87s went in overhead with their 550-pound bombs to take out Russian artillery. As punishing as this was for the Soviet artillery units, their anti-tank batteries were elsewhere, so safe from this current attack. Then again, dive bombers and HS-129 ground attack aircraft, protected by Focke-Wulf 190 fighters, flew low, seeking out Soviet armor and anti-tank crews. As terrifying as a coming German assault had been in the past, and partially because of this, the night before, Roskosovsky had moved into the sector another 2 rifle divisions, an artillery division, 2 armored brigades, and a mechanized rifle brigade. So, no surprise, over the next few days, Model's worst nightmare would come true. As much damage as his planes, artillery, and panzers could inflict, he would suffer as well, and the enemy always seemed to be able to call on more, and the German fuel problem was only growing. When the 4th Panzer attacked towards Teploy, the way was led by the 2nd Battalion, 33rd Panzer Grenadier Regiment. To this, a wall of Soviet artillery shells responded, and in that moment, 100 attacking Germans died. Still, the town itself was taken. In fact, the Soviets were pushed back to the last crest of the height. Sauken was determined to finish this, if only to avoid another Soviet counterattack.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
The 3rd and 35th Panzer Regiments advanced with infantry and Panzer Grenadiers in half-tracks for support. But just as it looked like this local battle might be over, the still-hidden Soviet 3rd Anti-Tank Artillery Brigade opened fire. Though momentarily stunned by this, the Germans wasted no time. They simply rushed ahead as to dither was to be destroyed. The closest Soviet battery was quickly wiped out, and as more Soviet guns opened up, this only got the attention of the Germans, who poured fire into that section of the Soviet line as well. Around noon, the Soviet brigade commander, seeing most of what he commanded gone, messaged Roskosovsky, "Brigade under attack by up to 300 tanks, number 1 and number 7 batteries wiped out, bringing last reserve number 2 battery into action. Request ammunition. I either hold on or will be wiped out." And the brigade would hold on somehow. For now, it would be finished off in the next 2 days of fighting. But it had done its job by giving Roskosovsky time to bring up reinforcements. Nearby, Hill 272 was taken by the Germans, and then taken again, and then taken again. But each time, the Soviets retook it. Meanwhile, to the east of Teploy, at Okhovatka, the center hill, the German 6th Division reached the base of Hill 274. But as the Soviets had amassed guns up there, the attackers would spend the next 3 days vainly trying to mount the summit. But the Soviets would hold, which left the easternmost point of this attack and hill at Ponry and Hill 253.5. The German 292nd Infantry Division fought its way to the town's northwestern edge. With that done the next day, the 18th and 9th Panzer Divisions started fighting their way in to town. Such was this day's fighting, and the days that followed, the term Stalingrad-esque comes to mind. Most of the fighting centered around certain buildings of the city, the tractor and railway stations, the school, and the water tower. This allowed the Panzer Grenadiers to reach the base and take the slopes around Hill 253.5, but reaching the top, that was denied them by the 1032nd Soviet Rifle Regiment. While the fighting for the height went on, other forces fought for the city. The Soviets held the crossroads, which allowed them to control the center of the city, but the Germans kept possession of the schoolhouse. Clearly, a change was needed, so during the night of July 10th, 11th, Model removed the 292nd Division, besides which it had very few unwounded men left, and put in its place the 10th Panzer Grenadier Division, which contained an oversized artillery component. Coming at the Soviets now would be a heavy mortar and assault gun battalion, a Nebelwerfer regiment, and all told, 7 artillery battalions. So, when the Soviets started attacking on July 11th, the German guns held them back, which was true again the next day on the 12th, even when the Soviets counterattacked 3 times. The only result was more casualties for them to deal with. And during all this, Stuka dive bombers were all around, setting the nearby woods on fire, while both artillery formations dueled, with Katyusha and Nebelwerfer teams trying to obliterate each other. It was hell on earth. And then it got worse. During an intense moment, the Soviets decided a cavalry charge was in order, but the German 110th Armored Reconnaissance Battalion used their machine guns to make this one of the shortest charges in history. The pile of men and horseflesh just added to the grisly landscape. The result of all this try and try again of both sides was a stalemate. The German Ninth Army could not take Hill 253.5 to then go down the other side and make for Obayan, and the Russians could not dislodge the Germans from Ponary. This close-knit fighting within a city and on heights now denuded of trees allowed the Soviet Sturmovik ground attack aircraft of the Soviet 16th Air Army to fly in, get behind the Tiger tanks and other panzers, and use their new 37mm cannon to hit the relatively weak spot of the enemy's armor. Having fought 11 miles just to get to Ponary, to then lose impressive numbers of panzers in this attritional war, General Model did not have enough armor left to try to swing around to his left flank to take the town there. And even if he had, thinking he could open up a way to Obayan in that direction, on their way to that very location was the Soviet Strategic Reserve. Thus Model was stuck in around Ponary and could not back out, as the enemy would follow him. To the south, it wasn't much better, just different. Voronezh Front Commander Vatutin was about to be his proactive self, with a counterattack set for July 6th. But General Katukov, commander of the 1st Guards Tank Army, talked him out of it. The forces simply were not ready for this, and besides, the idea had been to let the enemy break themselves on the Soviet line first, and then counterattack. Vatutin was trying to put the cart before the horse. Instead, now, Vatutin, like Roskosovsky, ordered his remaining tanks to dig in and conceal themselves, with anti-tank guns sprinkled all around, because he now realized the real attack of the 48th Panzer and 2nd SS Panzer Corps had just started.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
Still on July 6th, the day Vatutin's counterattack was canceled, near Belgorod, over the heads of the clashing tanks and infantry, flew Stuka ace Flight Lieutenant Hans Ulrich Rudel. He would later write of this moment, "Below us, great tank battles rage, a picture such as we have rarely had the chance to witness since 1941. The Soviets might have called off their attack, but the Germans were coming at the now defensive line as they had to break through to keep advancing north. Below the German ace were dug-in T-34s and the new long-barreled Su-85 tank destroyers. As he flew around, taking in the sight of hundreds of tanks clashing, he was sitting in an experimental plane, a cannon-armed Ju-87G, and here, he surmised, was as good a place as any to test this new aircraft. There were certainly enough Soviet tanks below him. As for the Soviet flak or AA defenses, Rudel decided if he should be hit, then he could still land in German-controlled territory. After all, the opposing tanks were only 1,000 yards from each other, plenty of time while going down to cover that distance. So on the next day, July 7th, he made his first test attack. Going in fast and low, he activated his cannon. As he pulled up, Rudel left 4 tanks exploding behind him. He would do this several more times, and by day's end had destroyed 12 Soviet tanks. This worked. Now, a call went out to all sections that also had this anti-tank experimental aircraft to report to Rudel. A formation would be formed, and the mass of Soviet armor before them, holding up Hoth's advance, would be smashed. Even better, when enough planes arrived, the flight went up, but with Ju-87Ds flying with them, lower to the ground, suppressing Soviet ground defenses. Like the Soviet aircraft to the north, these cannon-carrying Stukas attacked the Soviet tanks on their rear or to their sides. The Soviets, starting to figure out that something new was afoot, moved up their AA guns even closer to their tank formations. Meanwhile, the T-34s also started using their smoke shells more than before. During this potential bright spot for the Germans, the Soviets had their own. The 48th and 2nd SS Panzer Corps were still having a hard time destroying, pushing back, or pushing aside the Soviet Sixth Guards Army. Their numbers alone made them an effective blocking force. As for the villages that had once stood, that were flattened now, the Soviets had a relatively clear field of fire, so they simply blasted any German panzer or engineer troops that came within range. And the currently swollen A la Izquierda River was helping this. The Germans laid down their own smoke and got busy building bridges, so the Soviets simply fired into the smoke, which did the trick. The going for the Germans here was slow, to say the least. But then, on the left and in the center, respectively, while the Liebstandarte and Das Reich slogged their way forward, the Totenkopf, on the right, punched a hole in the defenses before them and dashed ahead 20 miles. By the evening of the 6th, they had passed the Belgorod-Obayan Road and had reached the Belgorod-Kursk Railway. This could be the beginning of the unraveling of Vatutin's Voronezh front. Even worse for the defenders, if the 4th Panzer Army could go far enough north, they might be able to hit Roskazovsky's defenders in the north from the rear. It had taken more blood than planned for, but the Kursk salient seemed about to, once again, become German territory. Greetings, everyone, from Central Virginia. So I just want to say hello and welcome aboard to some members and thank those who have donated. And obviously what's coming next in the series is the big tank battle that Kursk is known for. Anyway, so that'll be next time. So as far as new members, let's see here. I have Cohen White, who became a member and donated, and that means I love him twice as much, even though I suspect he's an Aussie. He can't help it. It's not his fault. Anyway, so Cohen, thank you very much. Let's see here. The other member is Jeff Altenberg. Jeff, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. As far as donations, let's see here. George is at Reicher. I hope I'm saying that right. Douglas Mogul, and Jeff Muffett. So thank you very much for the donations. It is greatly appreciated. And so next week we'll get to the big tank battle, and then there's a massive Soviet counterattack to the north of this, and the stuff going on in Italy. It all just starts to fall apart for the Germans. This was it. This was supposed to be not so much their high water mark that passed with Stalingrad, but this was supposed to be where they turned it around after achieving their high water mark. But as you can tell, the Soviets just, through very hard work, dedication, have just been able to produce tons of tanks, tons of planes, guns, shells, ammunition, the Lend-Lease, and they're just drawing up on, millions, literally millions of men. So again, it's too late for the Germans. They just have to deal with the situation that they have created. And on that lovely weird note, what is it? It's June 6th, so D-Day, so the second front has been opened today. So again, the sacrifice of all those people, we appreciate it very much. And I will see you next week with the largest tank battle in world history.
Welcome to True Spies, the podcast that takes you deep inside the greatest secret missions of all time.
Suddenly out of the darkness appeared Bin Laden.
You'll meet the people who live life undercover. What do they know? What are their skills? And what would you do in their position?
Vengeance felt good. Seeing these people pay for what they'd done felt righteous.
True Spies from Spyscape Studios, wherever you get your podcasts.